Hi folks, welcome to another video for best results. Today's video is on a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter or a Dodge Sprinter. Sprinters are licensed under Freightliner, Mercedes, Dodge. The only difference is the emblem that they put at the front. You can take this emblem off, you can put a Mercedes emblem. Anyway, this is on a 2008 Dodge Sprinter. It has less than 65,000 miles on it, like 63,000 miles. But it's kind of rare because it has a gasoline engine. So if you know anything about Sprinters, probably know that 9 out of 10, maybe even higher percentage, are diesels. This one happens to be a gasoline engine. In the 2007 and 2008 model years, Mercedes offered the Sprinter with the same gas engine that they had in all their cars, an M272, a 3.5 liter. There was also a 3 liter. I think there was a 2.5 liter. In any case, that engine was around since 2004 and went all the way up until 2015 or so. However, in the Sprinter, it was only in the 2007 and 2008 model years, and then they switched to something else, all diesels. If you know about the Mercedes engines of that era, you'll know that there are two problems that they had. Although it's a pretty good engine, there are two problems they had, and especially from 2004 to 2008, there was a problem that was just awful. If you go to the internet, you'll see sometimes it's called the balance shaft issue, sometimes it's called the balance shaft gear issue. It's really not a gear issue because it's a sprocket. So it's actually the balance shaft sprocket issue, and the problem was that the metal that Mercedes used for the sprocket was inferior, and the sprocket metal would disintegrate. It's on the timing chain, and so when it would the little bits of metal would go off, the timing chain could slip, all kinds of problems you could have, and that problem existed all the way from 2004 to 2008. So if you have any Mercedes from that era that has an M272 engine, you could have a huge problem on your hands. There were class action lawsuits, all kinds of things. Anyway, those are all done now because it's 2023. And if you happen to have one of these cars that has this problem, it could be a $6,000 bill or more. You may say, hey, I'm a car guy. It's a problem with the timing chain. All I have to do is, take the fan off, take some belts off, take the water pump off, take the timing chain cover off, fix it, and I'm good to go. And that would be the case if it were a Toyota or another car, but this again is a Mercedes engine, and that's not going to work. So because the shaft goes all the way through the engine, you would have to take the engine out of the car. Not insurmountable. It can be done. There are kits for like $400 that replace all the pieces, and you'll be good to go, but it's not a trivial problem. So again, it only happened from 2004 to 2008. It was only in the Sprinter from 2007 to 2008. So the question becomes, if this is a 2008, does it have that problem? And the way you could tell is from the serial number of the engine. So in the back of the engine, there's a serial number. You can look down in there with a borescope or a flashlight, see what the engine serial number is. You can go to the Mercedes-Benz website, put in the serial number, and it'll tell you whether you have the problem or not. Another way you can do it is you could put the VIN number in, and there's a cross-reference that will tell you what engine ended up in the VIN number of your car. So that's another way. Fortunately, for this truck, it was made later in 2008, and I believe the number is somehow 469,000 or something. That's the model, or the serial number where they changed over to the new sprocket. And this one is at 570-some thousand. So it's good to go. It does not have the classic balance shaft problem that a lot of the earlier Mercedes engines had. However, it does have the other problem that all of these engines have, and that is the intake manifold flap problem. So when you get a code, usually it will be a P 2004, 2005, 2006. I will show you why you can get any one of those codes when we take it out. But if you have those codes it's not quite as difficult a task. I shouldn't say that. It's nowhere near as difficult a task. It's actually fairly simple. We're going to do it today, change it, and fix the problem, and then the engine should be pretty good to go. So the intake flap problem could be a 5-minute fix were it not for this lifting eye and piece of casting right here. The problem is a broken piece of plastic that is behind this. So in between this actuator and this engine mount, down about 6 inches, is a piece of plastic that is broken. And the way that I'm going to attack this video is I am going to, through the magic of YouTube, skip ahead in time and show you what the problem is, and then come back and remove the manifold and go through all the steps individually. So I've seen this on other channels. All you have to do is snap your fingers and you'll be at the next step where the manifold has already been removed from the engine. So let's give it a shot. It didn't work. Let me try one more time. It totally worked. The manifold is completely out, clean, ready to go back in. Here is the plate. If you look down in here, that you can see, which holds the engine together, and this lifting eye, which is why you cannot get to the problem that I'm going to show you in a minute. So let's go over to the manifold. Here's the manifold taken out of the car, sitting up on its end, and you can quickly see the problem. This actuator right here is no longer attached to this arm. So the way this works is this arm pivots and the swirl flaps extend, but if the pivot is broken off, then it won't work. There's also 2 others that are okay. So some people say the reason that this breaks is just because these flaps get stuck and it causes too much pressure, and that's what causes this lever arm to break. That's just ridiculous, right? This is sitting at 200 and some degrees inside the front of the engine. It's plastic. It's only a matter of time before this is going to break. So if we look over at the new one, you can see that shiny piece of aluminum there is an improved design that is not going to break. They sell a kit that gives you just this plastic lever arm in aluminum, along with 2 new guides, and basically you just pop them off, put the new one on, and then it's fixed. However, as you saw, it's quite a little bit of work to take this out, and if you're going to do that, who knows how old these things are, and then these switches, I mean these solenoids here, and so, and if it was, you know, these are pretty free, they move fairly easily, but if the problem was that these are stuck, then you're going to you know, be in for another taking this thing apart again. So why do that when you could just buy a new one and put it in? If you look in the back here, those 2 connectors, there's one here and one here. They were the ones that were tough to film back there. Those are switches. So the rod goes all the way through to this switch, and then when the flap turns, it clicks the switch, and then the computer knows that the flap has turned. That's why you get the error code, because the ECU sets the flaps to closed, and if they don't close, then it knows. Okay, so what is required to do this job? So the first thing you're going to need is a 7mm and a ratchet or a screwdriver and an extension that gets off the hose clamps. You absolutely need a pick that has a dull tip to get the hoses off. You need an inspection mirror for sure to be able to see some of the clips for the connectors. You need a small screwdriver to be able to click the connectors. Some of them are stuck. Maybe you need multiple screwdrivers or a small pick. This is all that I used. You need a external Torx, eTorx 10. It's the only one. The sets are very cheap, so you might as well just buy the set rather than buy a single socket. I needed a medium extension and a about 6-inch extension and a 4-inch extension. You need a Torx T30, a regular Torx T30. A couple of adapters for the sockets because there was one spot that was only, I need an extension about 1 inch, so I put 2 of these together. You need some kind of pliers for the hose clamps that are the spring clamps. You need a needle nose for the vacuum tubing, a pair of cutters to cut the vacuum tubing. You need brake clean to clean everything, and you need silicone spray to get some of the hoses off. I got an M6x1 set of taps to tap the manifold. You need flashlights, of course, because you're never going to see anything back there. And as far as replacement parts, you need the gasket for the throttle body. You need 2 new gaskets for the intake manifold, and you need O-rings for the fuel injectors. That's about it. Oh, and you need, this is obviously not the ideal tool, but you need a curved pry bar to be able to get the fuel rail off. It may be that the fuel rail, you just put your fingers on there and it pops off, but sometimes you get a stuck one and you need to pry just underneath the part of the rail where the stuck one is, and it needs to be curved and, you know, like an adjustable type pry bar with the little ratchet where you push the button and you could change the thing. That would be ideal. That's pretty much everything that you're going to need other than paper towels, Q-tips for cleaning the throttle body, maybe some wire ties and some rope to hold things out of the way, and that's it. No other special tools are required. One word about looking up the part numbers for this. If you go and you type in to Google for a 2007 or 2008 Dodge Sprinter, it will show you all the parts. There's parts lists available, exploded diagrams. You put in any part and it will say discontinued, no longer available. That's simply because Dodge does not want to repackage Mercedes parts and put their own part number on there. So as I said, this is like the most popular Mercedes-Benz engine of all time, so every part is still available. It's just the part numbers are different. So what you want to do is go in and look for an M272 Mercedes, and you'll find these parts. So to remove the manifold, the very first step is to blow the engine off so that nothing falls into the intake manifold while you're working on it. So I already took a leaf blower, I blew all the leaves off the top. I used an air compressor, blew all the stuff that was on the top of the engine off, and I did not have the camera rolling for that part, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. The next thing you have to do is you have to disconnect the battery. This is a Mercedes, so there is no battery up front because obviously, right, there's no possible place that you could put a battery up in the front of the engine. So what you have to do instead is you have to put it underneath the driver's feet under a plate. But fortunately, there is a nice, easy way to disconnect the battery, so we'll go see that. So the battery lives under here. You have to take off this plastic, this trim, to get to the battery. However, so there is the battery cable that comes right from the battery under the floor, and it's got a little clip on here, and you push it down. So and now the battery's off. So that was pretty easy. Okay, so then you have to take off this jump point here because, of course, there's no battery here. So if you wanted to jump start a Sprinter, you would use this, and then a ground over here. So let's take this off, set it aside. Out of the way. Now we have to take the intake off. I'm going to get a tripod because there's no possible way I could do all this and hold the camera at the same time. Almost all these steps are the same for every M272 engine except for taking off the airbox. So, you know, in a Sprinter, there's plenty of room. They have this giant airbox that's here. If this was a Mercedes, you know, sedan where the trunk lid comes within an inch of the engine, obviously they have different cowling and different air filters. So you know, this part is unique to a Sprinter, but the rest is all the same. So first thing you have to do is get this hose off of here. It's just a spring clamp. There's another hose here. This is a 7mm. There's a hose down here. It has to come off. You just pull up on it. It's just a piece of plastic that's snapped in. There are two rubber grommets here in the front that hold this whole assembly. Here and here. Just pull up on them. Have to get a pick for that. Okay, try to get a better view here. So all you do is lift up on the front, make sure that the hose is off on the side, and then it just slides off on these two plastic tabs that are there. Set this aside. At the other end of this hose, there is a hose clamp that's on the throttle body elbow, and you can't get the battery Milwaukee ratchet on there, so I put a regular ratchet on there just so you could see. It's 7mm. Pull that off now. So I can stand it. Comes out like that. Okay, so with all that stuff out of the way, we could see the prize. So this right here is the intake manifold. That's the prize underneath the ECM. Fortunately, there's a looks like the valve for the heater core is right here. So that's kind of in the way, but we could just push it out of the way. So the next thing I want to do is take off the engine computer. Okay, so what you do is there's a tab on the side that you can fit your fingers on. Pull on that, not out, side to side, right to left, and just kind of pull it out and wiggle the connector at the same time. Push the connector back, pull the tab out, and it comes out just like that. Just like that. Okay, let's try the other side. See if I can get the camera in here. Okay, that's out of the way. So this is what an e-Torx looks like. It's the exact opposite of a Torx. That's the regular internal Torx. This is an external Torx, and it fits on all of these bolts. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to pry up on the engine computer, and if you look, it's just in 4 rubber grommets that are on the side. So I'm going to put the camera back and lift up on that. Pins are all perfect inside there. So when the battery died, I put plastic bags on the connectors. They're static bags. You could use any bags. You could use nothing. I just have issues, so I put that on there just to make sure. You could use rubber gloves. Of course, there's people who say, oh, if you put rubber gloves on there, you pull the rubber gloves off, it's going to create static and go back through the wires. If that's what you're worried about, then good luck working on cars. Anyway, this is a T30 Torx. We're going to take the brackets off that held the computer on. So the next thing we're going to take off is the mass airflow sensor. So there's a brake booster vacuum line right here. You could tell because it goes all the way over and attaches to the brake booster. So there's a, this one's going to be a hard one to show. If you look under there, there is a piece of plastic that you pinch inwards. And it comes right off. So this was the tab, if you could see it. I'll focus. You just squeeze this tab in, and this will come out. Now I am going to get a wire tie and just hold this up out of the way because it's pretty flexible, and why take that end off if you don't have to? Okay, I'm going to try to show you. On the side of the mass airflow sensor, which is that, there is a connector, which is this connector that I undid. The connector tab faces the back, so you have to put your finger on this little tab right here and squeeze it. Most people don't realize with connectors, when taking the connector off, is there's going to be a little binding between the part at the front that locks and the plastic that's on the connector. So what it's best to do is push it in a little, then push the the tab and then release it. So it's in there like that. You push it towards the math, push the tab down, and then slide it off. Anyway, it could be that if someone took this off of your car that this tab is already broken. Maybe they have a wire tie on there. I don't know. This one's in pretty good shape. It came right off. So now the map is free of connectors. There are these tabs right here that are holding it on. And then it's an elbow, so it comes off. When it comes off, it's going to be a lot easier to see what happened to get it off. So I'm going to put the camera back in the tripod here. I can show how that's going to come off. And it comes out just like that. So this tab goes that way. This tab goes that way. You can see it's got that little hook that's hooking on there. And then there's a finger that comes back that holds it in the back, which is that metal tab way down in there. And then this is off. Put this somewhere where it won't get broken. Okay, so we're in a few minutes, and now we are at a point where we can see what we're trying to get out. So we're trying to get this aluminum intake manifold off, and the only problem that keeps us from getting this off, well, two, right? All of this wiring harness is sitting right on top of the manifold, and also the fuel injection rails. So if we take those two things off, the intake manifold will practically jump out of the car. So I'm just going to remove this wire tie here. Clip off of there. It appears that must have broken sometime in the past and somebody put a wire tie on there, because I don't think that's factory wire tie. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's out of the way. It's a problem with an all aluminum engine. There's nowhere to. There we go. All right, so we're going to start down here at the front with the camshaft solenoids and camshaft sensors. Connectors freed. Connectors freed. Let's see. If you look right under this wire tie, there's no reason to cut the wire tie. There's just a metal clip that is pressed onto the cover, and you just pry it off. It looks like that. Let's see. Just goes right on there. So that guy's off. Let's see. Okay, so I'm breaking my rule just to get this air pump hose out of the way because it's in the way of filming, but it's pretty benign because first of all, these air pumps don't last forever, and second of all, this hose is just falling off practically, so I'm just going to take it off. You can't screw up which way it goes on. First of all, it looks symmetrical, but second of all, the top end has a clamp, the bottom end has no clamp. That hose is just there to reduce emissions when you first start the engine. Air goes in, there's two valves down there that open up and put fresh air onto the catalytic converters so that they heat up quicker and take away pollution faster. And so for that, reduced emissions, you have this pump, two solenoids, computer control, all kinds of things to go bad, but you know, it's good. It's good for the planet. So anyway, I took that off so that we could see the connector that goes to this vacuum solenoid right here, and that one has to come off as well. There's that one. There's a tab here you push. You may have to get under there and just open that a little bit. Okay, next thing we want to do is take off this external torque bolt, external torque head bolt right there. It just holds the harness. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4 connectors that we took off. So now that's all freed up. We can take out that. There's another one down here. Okay. There is a bracket back here, a lifting bracket for the engine. And through the lifting bracket, there is a bolt that goes into the plastic harness here holding this in. So you have to take that out, and you have to take the bracket off. So we'll do that next. There is a connector right here to the air pump, right here. Go over to this side. There's that connector, just 2 tabs you squeeze. Here's another hold down on the back that has 2 screws in it right there. They are internal Torx 30. right here on this connector. You don't have to release the connector. You just have to take it off of the fuel rail. So there's a plastic part on the back. If you kind of tilt it up, you can just slide it right off. And now, be out of the way, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. There are the 3 coils on the left-hand side. I have seen videos where Mercedes uses a special connector that has a lock on the back. I don't know if it's because this is the one made for Dodge or what, but they don't have those snaps on the back. It's just the regular snap on the top, and it comes off just like that. So let me see if I can get a better view of that. It's just in the back. There's just a snap. You just push it down, and it releases the tab. Do this one. Oh, it's hard to do one-handed. This is completely free here. It's going to be easy to get that out of the way. Okay, now we have the fuel injectors. Let's go blow this out some more now. There's one there, and there's one in the back. And they have to be taken off. Let's see. Okay, so now this side is completely freed up, nothing in the way. So all we have to do is the opposite side. That one. See. So we have the actuator connector, we have the manifold air pressure connector, which is that thing. Again, we have the actuators and the sensors for the camshaft. There is a connector way down at the end of this wire. I think that I can just pull it a little bit this way and then when the harness goes out of the way, I will not have to take that out, because that connector looks like it's... Okay, I had to take a break because the camera overheated. Didn't know there was such a thing, but apparently camera can overheat. So the next thing we are going to take off is this vacuum line right here. And it's funny, but I think this is the purge solenoid over there. It's funny because the purge solenoid's up here, and usually I think in a Mercedes it's over here, and you could tell it is because you could see right here where these plastic clips typically go over somewhere else. So this must be some custom, you know, tube for just for the Sprinter. In any case, it's still in the way, so we have to get it off. I'm going to spray some stuff in there and see if I can get that off. We have this bolt here that's holding the harness on. We have the remainder of the fuel injectors on the driver's side. And then there's one more connector in the back, which is the switch for the actuator that's on this side of the air flap. Out of there. Usually put that out of the way. Put wire tie here. Put it out of the way. Okay. And then we have this guy right here. So this vent tube is also in the way. It goes from here, under here, back through there, all the way to the back of the manifold. So we have to take that off. We'll do that next. Okay, so this part now is almost completely free except for a vacuum line right here. So here's the pressure sensor for the manifold. There's a 3.5 millimeter vacuum tube that goes, if you follow it here, it goes right to here, and it goes down, and it goes to the front of the manifold. We'll see that when we look at the manifold, but there are two ports on the front of the manifold that just stick out that are 3.5. I'm going to replace this one, and I'm going to replace the one that's down in there because, wow, they're hard to get to if you had to replace them later. All right, so I am going to take the vacuum hose off of here so that this assembly moves off. Remember, the whole prize is to get this off. All we're trying to do is just get the wires out of the way so that they don't interfere. Okay, got that off right there. All right, so now this is almost free. We have to get the fuel injector wire off, which is right there. Then there's two more of those. And then there's a bolt right here, which is holding the harness on as well. We need to get that off. Middle fuel injector. The front one's going to be hard to show you. Yeah, there's That one. There's the last one. Okay, so now we're going to take the bracket off the back. Okay, so I took a minute off camera, got some rope, tied the wires up and the harnesses out of the way so we can see exactly where we are. So we can see all we have is the fuel rail left, this one vacuum hose. We have that one connector way in the back that goes to the switch, that goes to the flapper that's on this side. And that's it. So the next thing we have to do is take the fuel rail, and that is attached with this one line right here. So I'm going to get a wrench, we'll take him off. There's probably going to be a little bit of gas in here. I'll put a towel underneath there. You know, in the perfect world, for best results, you would take this Schrader valve off here, put something in there and relieve the pressure, but then you're going to have gas there, and then you're going to have more gas there when you take that off. So I don't really see the downside to just doing that. But I guess, you know, if you read the manual, not that I have it, but if you did, I bet it would say to bleed it from the Schrader valve first. All right, I'm gonna go get a wrench. Okay, I have a 17 mil wrench, which is what this is. And I am always leery about cracking nuts on things like this that can break off. So I have a holdback. I watch mechanics on YouTube. None of them hold back. Things don't seem to break. Maybe it's not a problem with cars. I don't know. I was involved in plumbing a long time, and you always hold back or the thing breaks. Maybe that's just because everything's made out of brass and copper. I don't know. But it just goes against my nature to try to undo a nut without holding back. So that's why I have this second wrench that I'm going to hold back here and try not to break off this fuel rail. Came right undone. Tiny little drip there, no Exxon Valdez happening here. Swipe that up. This hose. Put it up out of the way. There you go, done. That's disconnected. So we have one bolt back here, another one right here, one right here, and one right there. And we will take the fuel rail off. In case you're wondering how I'm going to know where all these bolts go back, all of the E10 bolts are all the same so far, except for the engine bracket bolts, the lifting bolts, which are a totally different size. So they're not only longer, but they're also 8 mils, I think, instead of 6. So once that's done, in order to get the fuel rails up, you should just be able to pry up on them gently. So let's see how this goes. and go get something to do it. Okay, I spent the last 10 minutes looking for a curved bar that would fit in here, and this crowbar fits perfectly in there, and if you just give a little tug, it comes right off. So fuel rail is now off. Carefully take this out. There you go. Okay, before we take this out, there's just a couple more things I can now get in here to show you. One is this hose right here that comes all the way along here. Goes into the back here. And I don't know if you could see this because it's hard for me to see, but I just turn it and it comes off. It was on that port right there. The other thing is the switch under here. Same as the one that's right there, except it's on this side. And I just can't. There goes the flashlight. Sorry. All I can do is just take this out. Comes out like that. There. Okay. With everything removed, we can see easily the throttle body elbow. So right here is a tab, and if you just raise the tab without a flashlight in your hands, it just falls right off. The elbow falls off, and we'll just push it back there. See, there's a rubber gasket on the front of it, and it just sits back there. You can't really take it out too easily. There's a hose that goes to the head. I guess you could take that off if you wanted to, but it's not hurting anything, so I'm just gonna leave that sit back there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is take the throttle body out because it's just too difficult to get the connector. It looks like it's easy to put it back in once you have it on the new manifold, but it is not easy to get it off. So there are 4 bolts. One is right there. There's one on the other side, one on the bottom, 4 in a square. Just take that off, and then the throttle body will go in the back, and then it'll be easy to get the connector off once it's out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. There are E-Torques again. Get rid of that thing. Yep. Okay, last one. So the 4th one is out. Now we can look back in there and see that the throttle body is removed from the back of the intake. So now all we have to do is take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more E10s, and the manifold will come out. Eight. Here are those two vacuum lines. There's one right there. And there's one right there. Now, this one we already removed from the map sensor, so it's just kind of free. But that one is still attached. So we need to use a needle nose and pull that off as we remove the manifold. Just the throttle body. Now we can look in there and see the throttle body. It was sitting like this, pretty dirty, and you can see the connector sits right there, which from here is very easy to put on, but when it's sitting back there and you're trying to remove it, not so easy. So we'll just unclip him, pull him out, clean the throttle body. Let's see if the runners are a little carbon. Looks good. All my effort, still a twig in there. Clean that up. Got new Mercedes-Benz gaskets. One of them is obviously stuck to the bottom of the manifold. And that's it. Easy peasy.